Imagine, just for a second, looking in a mirror and coming to this sudden kind of unsettling realization that the face staring back at you isn't actually you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Starting off intense today.
Right. But think about it. It's just a temporary vehicle that you're currently driving. And, when it breaks down, you'll simply step out of it and into something else entirely.
Like pure science fiction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds like a sci-fi movie. But what if the very foundation of how we view our existence, like our birth, our daily struggles, our eventual death, is just one incredibly narrow frequency on this massive cosmic dial?
Well, I mean, we completely operate under the assumption that the material world is the definitive reality, right?
Hmm.
We define ourselves by our physical boundaries. But when you strip that assumption away, the mechanics of cause and effect in our lives start to look entirely different.
And that is exactly what we're unpacking today on this deep dive.
Mhm.
We're looking at a framework that attempts to strip away that exact assumption.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating one.
It really is. So we're diving into a translated text from 2011 by a philosophical figure named Feng. It's titled The Value and Meaning of Life.
Right.
And the core of this text isn't just some abstract, dry monologue. It actually features this highly detailed, deeply revealing Q&A session with a seeker who goes by the name Moth Orchid.
Which is such a striking name, by the way.
It is. And what unfolds in their dialogue is basically a masterclass in restructuring reality.
It really is. And for anyone listening right now, whether you approach the world through a deeply spiritual lens or maybe a strictly logical one or somewhere in between, the goal today is just to examine this text as a structural model of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. We're just exploring the concepts.
Right. We are looking at this intricate map that separates our temporary daily existence from this supposed eternal essence. It defines not just what we are, but the literal mechanisms that dictate where we end up.
So to even begin navigating that map, the text forces us to redefine the word life itself.
Yeah, the distinction here is super important.
It draws this rigid, unyielding line between two concepts that, well, they sound identical when we say them out loud, but they represent entirely different realities in this framework. It's the distinction between lowercase life and uppercase life.
Right. So in the context of this philosophy, the lowercase life is the ephemeral journey. It's the span of time taking place in what the text calls the mortal world.
The dash between your physical birth and your physical death.
Exactly. It is finite. It's fragile. Uppercase life, on the other hand, is the eternal entity. It is this invisible, non-material structure that is actively experiencing that temporary journey.
And the text uses this incredibly vivid analogy here about wild grass. It observes how grass, flourishes under the spring breeze, and then inevitably it withers when autumn arrives.
Mm-hmm.
A wildfire might even come along and burn the entire field right down to the soil. The individual blade of grass that represents the lowercase life.
Right. It's born, it experiences the elements, and it dies.
Yeah. But the grass life, the uppercase essence of what grass actually is, that remains intact beneath the surface.
Hmm.
So when the conditions are right, when that spring breeze returns, it just thrives again.
That analogy fundamentally alters the whole concept of mortality.
It really does.
Because by cleaving the temporary physical vehicle from the eternal invisible driver, physical death ceases to be an ending. The text argues that the essence of uppercase life possesses this non-material spirituality.
Yeah, it compares it to the Tao, right?
Yes, exactly. The Tao cannot be touched or weighed or measured in a laboratory, yet its presence is undeniable because we can actually witness its manifestations in the physical world.
Right, like we see the tree grow, therefore we know the invisible force of growth has to exist.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this with a different analogy. If the uppercase life is the person, then the lowercase lives the blades of grass, the human bodies, they're really just the clothes they wear.
I like that.
Right, like you wouldn't panic and think you ceased to exist just because the weather changed and you had to take off a heavy winter coat.
Yeah, just to put on a light summer t-shirt.
Exactly. The person underneath the clothing is entirely unaffected by shedding those layers. The body is literally just an environmental adaptation.
And what's fascinating here is that the framework expands on that concept of environmental adaptation. It claims this uppercase life can wear both material and non-material outfits.
Right. We're obviously highly familiar with the material wardrobe, plants, animals, human beings of flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm. But the text explicitly maps out non-material manifestations as well. It speaks of entities like ghosts operating in the underworld, or gods and Buddhas in the Elysium world.
Oh, and the super celestial beings, right?
Yeah, it categorizes super celestial beings as originating from the Elysium Celestial Islands continent.
The text actually makes a comparison to dreaming that I found super helpful. It points out that right now, you exist as flesh and blood in the waking world, feeling the chair you're sitting in. But when you fall asleep, you still exist. You navigate a dreamscape as this non-material spirit.
Yeah.
Your consciousness is active, but your physical body is just parked in a bed.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. So if uppercase life is eternal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's constantly swapping out a winter coat for a summer tea or, shifting from a biological human body to a celestial form, what is the mechanism? Who is acting as the cosmic tailor, deciding which outfit you wear next?
Well, according to the text, the mechanism is entirely internal.
Okay.
These eternal uppercase lives are fundamentally synonymous with consciousnesses. It's a direct equation. The text posits that souls aren't these vague, floaty clouds of mist. They are active consciousnesses navigating what it calls a boundless ocean of psyche.
A boundless ocean of psyche. Wow.
Yeah, and the specific, measurable state of that consciousness is what literally dictates the physical form it must take and the environment it has to inhabit.
I want to pause and really look at that for a second because the implications are massive.
Oh, absolutely.
The text isn't saying we are humans who happen to possess consciousness. It is saying we are isolated consciousnesses that currently just happen to be shaped like humans.
Yes.
It's suggesting our internal psychological frequency is literally architecting our physical reality.
Exactly. The external form is merely the symptom. The internal state is the actual cause.
Wait, so break that down for me.
Sure. So if an entity maintains a consciousness entirely consumed by, say, gluttony, ignorance, and base desires, the text argues that consciousness aligns with the frequency of livestock.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, its next physical manifestation will literally be a pig in the animal world.
Okay, so what about us?
Well, if the consciousness operates with reason, emotion, and societal awareness, it manifests as a human in the material world. And if a human manages to elevate their consciousness state beyond worldly attachments, they don't just become, like, a better human. They physically manifest as a celestial being.
In those higher dimensional environments.
Right. Which the text refers to as the 1,000-year world or the 10,000-year world.
The text actually brings in a cultural touchstone to explain this, which is Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, from the classic novel Journey to the West.
Oh, yeah, the 72 transformations.
Exactly. His ability to turn into a bird, a fish, or even a temple. But rather than viewing this as a magical superpower, the text frames it as a deep mastery of internal mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Sun Wukong didn't cast a spell to change his body. He mastered the mystery of altering his consciousness at will. Once the consciousness shifted to the frequency of a bird, the physical form simply had no choice but to follow.
Which removes the concept of random chance from the universe entirely. The environment you find yourself in is an uncompromising external reflection of your internal state.
So if you wish to escape your current reality, trying to manipulate the external world is basically futile.
Exactly. You have to change the fundamental state of your consciousness.
But that mechanism of changing form leads directly into what I think is the text's most controversial premise.
The hierarchy.
Yes. Because changing your consciousness sounds very empowering on the surface. But these different forms, the pigs, the humans, the celestial beings, they aren't just existing side by side in some egalitarian cosmic ecosystem.
No, definitely not.
The text outlines an incredibly rigid, almost ruthless chain of command. Not all forms of life hold the same rank.
Right. The structure of this universe is strictly hierarchical. It dictates a clear, unbreakable ladder of existence based on the complexity and elevation of life.
So what's at the bottom?
At the absolute bottom rung, you have bacteria. Moving up, you have plants, then insects, then flying birds, followed by animals, and then people.
Okay, and above people.
Above people, the hierarchy extends into the non-material. You've got gods, Buddhas, and celestials. And finally, at the very apex of this structure is what the text identifies as the greatest creator.
And the governing law of this ladder is utility. The core rule is that lower levels exist to serve the higher levels, and the higher levels have absolute power over the lower ones.
Yeah, the text uses a very blunt everyday example here. Humans raising chickens and pigs.
Right. We breed them, we house them, and ultimately we consume them. The animals exist to serve the humans. Therefore, logically following the ladder upward, the ultimate value of a human's existence is to serve the greatest creator.
It's essentially a system of cosmic metabolism. The lower sustains the higher.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the wording surrounding this gets intensely severe. The text states that if humans fail to serve the greatest creator, they lose their value for existence and face destruction.
Yeah, that's a heavy word.
When I read that, it sounds terrifying. Destruction implies total annihilation. It sounds like a cosmic lightning bolt just wiping you out of the universe.
This raises an important question, though, and it's exactly why we have to constantly reference the foundational rules of the text.
Okay.
The very first principle established was that uppercase life is eternal. It is impervious to true annihilation.
Right. The grassroots survives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Therefore, the word destruction in this specific philosophical context does not mean the end of your existence. It means a demotion.
Oh, so you don't get kicked out of the game entirely. You just lose your current avatar.
You are destroyed specifically as a human. Because your consciousness failed to fulfill the value and utility required of the human form, you lose the privilege of wearing the human outfit.
So what happens then?
The cosmic machinery recycles you. Your life is transformed and descends the ladder. You might drop into the animal world to serve humans instead. The hierarchy abhors uselessness. You either serve the level above you willingly, or you are recycled into a lower form that will be forced to serve.
The sheer mechanical efficiency of that is staggering. It paints a picture of a universe that is completely indifferent to our personal human dramas.
Yeah, serve the level above you or get demoted to livestock.
It makes us sound like tiny cogs in an unfathomably massive machine. But just when the framework feels overwhelmingly oppressive, we get to the actual dialogue portion of the text.
Right, the Q&A.
Yeah, where Moth Orchid, the seeker, starts asking the guide Sufin questions about how to actually live under these rules. And this conversation reveals a surprising amount of agency in our day-to-day lives.
Moth Orchid's questions are highly practical, which is great. She is grappling with the macro versus the micro. She essentially asks, if the universe is this grand eternal hierarchy, what is the point of my stressful, mundane daily life?
Right, like, while I am exhausting myself just trying to survive, is there supposed to be some deeper mission to improve my soul?
Exactly. And the guide responds by defining the grand meaning of life as being an actor in the big script of universal life. The entire cosmos is a dramatic performance written by the greatest creator, and you are obligated to play your assigned role.
But he introduces this concept of plays within the big play. And this is where the claustrophobia of the cosmic ladder really lifts a bit.
Yeah, he explicitly validates our mundane experiences.
He lists activities like directing your own life, choosing who to marry, having children, running a business. He calls these the plays within the big play.
It grants validity to the mortal experience. You aren't supposed to simply sit in a cave and ignore the material world. The text acknowledges that the material outfit comes with material responsibilities.
So it's kind of like the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
We're all actors, bound by a contract to star in this massive, overarching cosmic blockbuster directed by the greatest creator.
I love that analogy.
We have to hit our marks in that film. But in between takes, during our downtime on set, we are given the cameras and the budget to write, direct, and star in our own personal indie films.
Yeah.
Your career, your romances, your hobbies, that's your indie film. You have total creative control over it.
The tension arises, however, when people confuse their indie film for the blockbuster.
Oh, absolutely.
The text presents a severe limitation regarding Moth Orchid's question about improving her soul. The guide reveals that while you have total agency over your daily earthly matters, you are entirely incapable of perceiving your soul's true, overarching mission on your own.
That seems really counterintuitive to a lot of modern self-help philosophies.
Right.
Usually the advice is to look inward, to isolate yourself and find your own truth.
Right.
But this text says you literally cannot figure out the grand script by just sitting in a quiet room and thinking really hard.
Within this framework, a consciousness can only perceive reality up to its current level on the hierarchy. The guide uses a very specific example to illustrate this blind spot. He points to what the text calls Lifechanyuan celestials.
Okay.
He notes that even these elevated beings had no idea what their actual mission for soul sublimation was until they managed to elevate their consciousness and actually became Chanyuan celestials.
Wow.
The vantage point required to see the path simply doesn't exist at the lower elevations.
So relying on your own human intellect to figure out celestial mechanics is like an ant trying to comprehend the architectural blueprints of the house it's walking in. The ant simply doesn't have the sensory equipment. You require outside intervention.
Yes. The text asserts that to correctly identify and execute your soul's mission, you must receive teaching and guidance from higher-level lives, gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, or mortal saints who have accessed those higher frequencies.
So you need a mentor from the floor above you.
Exactly. True spiritual sublimation demands an external, higher perspective. You can direct your earthly indie film brilliantly, but understanding your role in the cosmic blockbuster requires the director's notes passed down from above.
Which naturally leads to the most pressing question of this entire deep dive. How does a person actually make that transition?
Right.
How do you stop obsessing over the plot holes in your indie film, like paying your mortgage or dealing with office politics, and start actually reading the blockbuster script?
Hmm.
Moth Orchid brings this up by asking the guide about his own personal history. She asks about a specific car accident he was involved in and how it altered his trajectory.
And the guide's response is stripped of any mystical pretense. He admits that prior to the accident, he was deeply confused and entirely consumed by the mortal world. He states he was just busy with survival. Yeah.
He suspects that without the accident, he probably would have just become a company president. His entire consciousness was focused on pursuing money, serving his nuclear family, and glorifying his ancestors.
Which is the exact plot of 99% of the indie films being directed on Earth right now. We're all just trying to secure resources, protect our loved ones, build some kind of legacy. But the guide describes this car accident as a watershed moment. It wasn't just a physical injury, it was a violent turning point for his life channel.
The physical trauma of the accident acted as a massive disruption to his mortal consciousness. It shattered his fixation on the material world.
So what happened after?
After the shock of the accident, he describes a radical psychological shift. He states he suddenly understood the mechanisms of karma and the reality of reincarnation. His consciousness, which again is the soul in this text, managed to restore its buried memories of existence in the thousand-year world.
He effectively remembered who he was before he put on the human coat.
And once that memory returned, the text says he took on the soul of a super celestial being. His entire mission shifted. He completely abandoned the pursuit of personal, material wealth. Instead, his goal shifted to ushering in the Lifechanyuan era for mankind.
Acting as a conduit for those director's notes we talked about.
Yes. And his ultimate personal ambition is no longer earthly success. It is to live on Barika Island.
And we should definitely clarify what the text means by Barika Island.
Right, because it's not a physical place.
No, it isn't a geographical location you can find on a map or sail a boat to. It is described as a specific frequency or domain within the Elysium Celestial Islands continent.
Okay.
It represents an environment where consciousness operates entirely free from the friction, decay, and survival instincts that define the material human world. His goal is to elevate his consciousness state to the point where Barika Island becomes his natural, inevitable environment.
Okay, I can hear the listener practically yelling at their device right now. So what does this mean for me? Do I need to go out and get into a catastrophic car crash to wake up to the non-material world?
That's a very fair concern.
Because if physical trauma is the only way to shatter the mortal lens, that is a terrifying prospect.
Moth Orchid anticipates that exact fear. In her final question to the guide, she asks if there is a method for her consciousness to enter the non-material world freely while she is fully awake without requiring a traumatic, life-threatening event.
And the guide provides an answer that is profoundly simple, yet requires immense discipline.
He tells her that the non-material world can be accessed voluntarily through the method of being free from the mortal body in meditation.
Wow.
The car accident was a forceful, involuntary detachment from the physical form, but that detachment can be achieved intentionally.
So meditation in this context isn't just a tool for lowering your blood pressure or reducing workplace stress.
Not at all.
It is the active, deliberate practice of taking off the winter coat while you are still alive. It is sitting quietly and intentionally separating your eternal uppercase life from the sensory inputs and anxieties of your lowercase life. By doing that, you bypass the mortal hardware and directly access that boundless ocean of psyche. You allow your consciousness to float free from the hierarchy of survival.
It completely reframes meditation from a wellness habit into an act of cosmic reconnaissance. You are venturing out to retrieve the script.
We've covered an immense amount of ground today. We started by separating the fragile blade of grass from the eternal root system, distinguishing the temporary mortal outfit from the eternal uppercase life.
Right.
We examined the mechanics of how our internal consciousness acts as the ultimate shapeshifter, literally dictating the physical reality we will manifest next.
And we confronted the uncompromising utility of the cosmic ladder.
Yeah, where failing to serve the hierarchy results not in fiery destruction, but in a quiet mechanical demotion to a lower form.
And we balanced that immense scale with the reality of our daily agency. We are expected to direct our earthly plays, to live our lives fully, while utilizing practices like meditation to seek the higher guidance necessary to understand the grand design.
It shrinks the overwhelming, suffocating nature of our daily anxieties by contextualizing them.
Exactly. Your current challenges aren't the totality of your existence, they are just the conditions of the role you are currently playing.
You are eternal, the outfit is temporary, the role will eventually end, but you will continue. Which brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with today.
It is a question of pure cause and effect.
If this framework holds true, wait, let me rephrase that. If this framework holds true, and if the universe is not random, but is instead a flawless mirror reflecting your internal state, and if the specific frequency of your consciousness dictates the literal physical shape and environment of your next existence, what kind of reality are the thoughts you've had today silently building for you tomorrow?
It certainly makes you reconsider the weight of a passing thought, doesn't it?
Something to mull over while you direct your indie film today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care, everyone.